Welcome to the Visible and Unstoppable podcast. I am your host, Louise Kirk, and I'm here to support women to feel safe, to be seen, and to sell and succeed. And today I am answering that big question of how do I get my audience to become my clients? And there's so many programs and so much information out there that shows you how to grow a big following, how to go viral, how to get 10,000 views, likes, loves, and all of the above. And whilst this can be valuable to an extent, I think by now you've already learned that followers don't necessarily equate to clients. Now, if you are someone who is here to purely go viral, to become a celebrity or an influencer, then this might not be for you. But if you are someone who has a service based business, you are a coach, a consultant, even if you are sometimes selling products too, but you are the brand, you are the woman behind it all, and you're serving other people, then this is where you need to listen in. Because both at the start of my journey and what I hear so many women say is, I'm growing my following. Like, I ask them, what are you doing to get more clients or to generate more sales? And they say, I am posting on social media. And whilst it is fantastic to show up, especially if you can do it consistently, it clearly doesn't equate to getting clients. And because there's typically this missing gap. The gap between growing your audience and actually getting clients is that bit in between where you are actually generating leads from that audience, nurturing those leads to then be able to invite them to work with you, to allow them to make the decision whether or not you are the right person for them and whether or not they believe they can get the result or even want the result that you have. And so I know when I started my business way back when, before I was supporting women in business, I had no idea what people were talking about when they were talking about leads. I just thought everyone in my audience was potentially my lead, which made tracking them very hard, nurturing them very hard, and understanding whether or not I could even invite them onto a sales call was almost impossible. And so I spent all this time almost in like these friend zone conversations of like, I don't know if I can solve your problem, especially as I supported so many women around their mindset, right? And so it's not so crystal clear and things that people are open to discussing with you when you are some random stranger on the internet. But essentially, a lead is someone who has the problem you actually solve. And so, the very first key piece, especially in building the foundations of your business, is whether or not it's really clear about the problem you solve. Now, I know some of you out there might be like, but Louise, I can help everyone. My product is great for everyone. And whilst that might be true, it makes it really hard for your audience to put their hand up and say, that's me. I'm your lead. And this is the whole point of lead generating activities, is to get people to put their hand up and say, maybe me. And so if you're not clear on the problem you solve, and I'm not clear, I don't know if it's for me or not. And so I want to break down, first of all, who are your potential leads, how you can get more leads, and what you can do with those leads, because ultimately we want to be able to bring them in so we can serve them as our wonderful clients. So, as I said, a lead is someone who has the problem you solve. Now, that's not enough in itself to make them buy from you, because they're still going to be able to trust that you're the right one. They have to actually want to be looking for a solution to their problem, and they have to be at that stage where they are ready and willing to invest their time, energy, and money into solving that problem. And different people will be at different stages. And know that people in your audience might not be ready right now, doesn't mean they're not ready later on. And there'll be some people in your audience who are never ready to solve their problem, or they just don't believe that you are the right one. And that is okay. But our initial thing we want to do is to get people to raise their hand and say, I'm a lead. So, how do we do this in terms of like actual practical strategies? Now, first of all, I want to really put out there that if you are building an audience just full of people, right? Because you've gone viral for dancing or for cooking, but that's nothing to do with what you do, then there's a good chance you're filling your audience full of the wrong people in the first place. So it's getting in front of the right audience. And if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, I'll also talk about leveraging other people's audiences, but that's for another time. But so we are focusing on, first of all, you're in front of the right audience or you're growing the right kind of audience. So people who potentially have your problem that you solve. Then we're going to get people to start putting their hands up and say, hey, that might be me. Or how do we do this? We can do this through masterclasses, lead magnets that are specifically related to your offer. So, for example, if I want to say, hey, I want to hold a meditation class, come along to my meditation class. Everyone who loves meditation or is intrigued might come along. But my program might actually be around supporting women who have gone through really bad relationships, right? And I know that within my toolkit, meditation's one of them, for example, that maybe I could support these women. Now, just having meditation as this really broad sense is probably going to bring a whole bunch of people who aren't ever going to buy from me. And so then I might be saying, hey, I'm running this meditation specifically for women who want to heal from past relationships, right? So then I'm going to get a whole bunch of people. So it has to be specifically related to what you offer. The same thing is maybe you support people to build out their websites, but you also have a passion for cooking. So in all your reels, you're cooking, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I love all the cooking. You're like, great, I'll whack together a recipe book. They're not your leads, right? You can still do it. Why not? But if you're capturing their details, knowing that not everyone who wants your recipes is also looking for you to help them with their website. So you need to make sure that when we're actually putting out lead magnets or free trainings or masterclasses or whatever that is actually specifically related to the offer you are putting out there. Another way is in qualifying posts, and we can use this in social media. And I love doing this every couple of months. And so, an example of this might be a post that I'll put out and say, hey, I really need help to know what trainings I want to deliver. Please let me know, what do you feel you need the most help with right now? And I'll give 4 options and it will be like a poll, right? And the beautiful thing is firstly, this is helping me in terms of my market research to understand what do my audience want the most. But also, I deliver all of those 4 things. Now, if at the end of the day, I consistently put something out and no one ever votes for it, then I can easily say either I've not turned it in terms of the outcome very well, or they just don't want it. And so I'm not going to keep trying to push it. So first of all, it's going to help me with my market research. What is it that I do that my people need the most help with? But also, guess what? Everybody who has voted in that poll is going onto my lead spreadsheet. And I've got listed that they said they want this thing. So guess what? When I hold that training, who am I reaching out to let them know? It also has that opportunity to open up a conversation. I can drop into the DMs if it's something that I do on Facebook and say, hey, thank you so much for helping me. You said that you wanted more help around turning your visibility into sales. What are you currently doing right now to generate more clients from your audience? Or what is your biggest struggle right now in actually getting your audience to buy from you? And I can open up this conversation and understand them better, and also potentially then lead them on that journey to inviting them to work with me. You can use so many ways. You can generate leads from your posts, from your content, from your trainings, from your podcasts, right? So at the end, actually, I'm just going to mention it now, people, if you are watching on YouTube or if you are listening on Spotify, I have got a guide that I'm going to drop the link to. Lead generation and action, people. That I'm going to drop the link to. That are going to outline all the possible different ways that you could generate leads and what you could do with those leads to move that conversation into a sale. So if you want it, remember to click the link below. And that's how easy it is. And so generating leads is really about just getting people to put their hand up. What ways can you get people to say, hey, I potentially have this problem that you solve? So through your content, right? Through qualifying posts, your post might also be, hey, I have this training on XYZ, who wants it? Drop this comment below, and all those people, right, want what you have. They have the problem that you solve if you're specific enough in your post about the problem you're solving. You can generate leads through accessing other people's audiences. And I love this so much, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching it, because growing your own audience is so important, but at the same time, especially when you're starting out, can be really slow, right? Because you're still trying to figure out and draw people in to the people who, remember, have the problem you solve. Whereas there's already people out there who have your audience, but don't do exactly what you do, that you can access. You can literally step into a room where there is already a bunch of people who have the problem that you solve. And by being invited by that person, you gain the same level of trust that they have with them. Because they're like, hey, Louise is really awesome. So I've invited her to come and speak on my podcast, or she's going to be a guest on my YouTube channel, or maybe in my program. Maybe it's a collaboration event that you're holding together. Maybe you're going to do live swaps, right? Anything really where you can access each other's audience is saying, hey, I trust this person. So if you trust me, by default, you have a same level of trust than someone who just comes into your world who is cold. Now, to generate leads from these activities, you need to be able to invite them to your world. You need to be able to capture their details. So, for example, if you are leveraging other people's audiences by going on podcasts, first of all, you're going to want to make sure that you're actually aligned in terms of the audience you want to get in front of, but also asking the host, is it okay if I offer this freebie, right? Lead magnet, where you can capture their details. Most podcasts in the minimum will at least showcase where people can find you. But if you can take it that one step further to bring them onto your mailing list, then you are not leaving it up for people to go, oh, yeah, there was this person on this podcast that I think I might follow, but I can't remember her name. And I've gone on with my day, right? Whereas if it's something juicy that they actually want to get hold of, they're more likely to go and actually access that. And then you're there in their email box. So I've touched on a few different ways that you can actually start getting people to put their hand up. So you can do it through all your freebies, right? Your lead magnets, your masterclasses. You can do it through leveraging other people's audiences. You can do it through your own social media content. You can also use this kind of questioning or polls in your current mailing list. You could just send out an email and say, hey, help me out. Which of these things would you like me to do a training on? You could also, and please do, still send out your current trainings and lead magnets to people who are already on your mailing list. Because I meet so many women who feel like they're just growing their mailing list for the sake of growing their mailing list and forget that those are the people who already said, yes, I would like this, and to continue to nurture that by providing them with more resources and understanding them better. It also opens up opportunity to have those conversations, especially if you've left your leads to kind of like dingle dangle in the wind, you know, where they've signed up for something and then life has gotten on, or you haven't reached out, or you just didn't know. You didn't know what to ask. You just thought maybe they'll just reach out if they want anything. They did the thing. I said, "Would you like to work with me?" No one responded. And so I've moved on. And so that's where a lot of the usefulness of having those conversations, checking back in. Hey, how did you go with this thing? What's your biggest struggle? What are you currently doing too? Whatever that is, and starting that conversation. And this is the key part. So we've identified, okay, how do I start to generate leads? And I'll drop that like a full list of things in my guide below. And what then can you do with these people? Now, I've already kind of hinted at this of like, start the conversation. Now, if you're building these foundations of your business, so you're not like the Tony Robbins of the world, you do have the time to actually invest in building those relationships and those connections personally. One of the biggest mistakes I see at the moment is everybody wanting to automate absolutely everything. Avoid conversations with real people, avoid real connection. And a part of it is this fear of being rejected, this fear of starting a conversation, this fear of feeling salesy or bothersome. And so we feel like we want to keep people at a distance. Some of it's because people feel like, well, I just want to automate everything and just generate passive income. But the truth is, especially if you're a coach and you're offering a high ticket program, people need to be able to actually trust you. And trust comes with building a relationship. I personally have never purchased a high ticket program without having a connection and conversations with the people who are actually running it. Because I don't know you. I don't know if I really trust you. I don't know if you can really deliver results. And I want to be able to gauge that. I want to be certain before I hand over my hard earned money that you can deliver. And right now, especially in the online space, there are so many people who have been oversold and underdelivered. And they're constantly bombarded with all this messaging that says, overnight success, it's so easy, and this and this and this. And I make $1 million and so can you, but only giving you a small part of the journey, right? And so people are also really aware now of all the BS that is out there. People have been burnt from program after program, or coach after coach, or false promise after false promise. And so the trust level right now is low. But that doesn't mean people aren't buying, and that doesn't mean they're not going to buy from you. It just means you have to up your game in order to create more trust. So, how are you creating that trust? You're going to create that trust through relationships, through connection, through demonstrating your authority, through demonstrating your results, through allowing people to actually be in closer proximity to you rather than keeping them at this distance. And so, opening up conversations is a great way to start that. And yes, you do have the time. Because do you know what? If you are spending all your time in your business pumping out content, but you're not spending any time actually nurturing leads, all you're going to get is hundreds of thousands of followers, a great email list, and probably very few clients. Not to say that people won't buy from your content alone. 100% I've had people reach out and go, well, I've been watching you, I'm ready. I had no idea where they've come from. But the majority of people are going to actually need that extra level of trust and connection, especially when you're still building the foundations of your business and you don't have the authority of all the big names out there. You don't have that results that you can talk to, right? Where you're like, I am so successful and everyone knows I'm successful, so people will just buy from me, right? You probably don't have that. And so you're playing at a different level and you're playing a different game. So The missing gap between growing your audience and actually generating clients or sales is your lead generation and nurture. We've touched on how do you identify your leads? How do you get people to raise their hand? And then what you need to do after, which is nurture that relationship. And as I said in the guide below, I'm going to deep dive into this further, into the different things you can do to both generate leads and nurture those relationships. But I just want to touch on some of the pitfalls that I see people do. And so when it comes to lead generation, it's first of all, keeping the bar really low because you don't know initially who is your lead. So there's someone, obviously, it's your job to identify, do they even have the problem that I solve? And are they even looking for a solution? Because you will probably, with all your beautiful gifts and skills, see people be like, oh my gosh, I know I could help them. I know what their problem is. But actually, they're quite content to sit in their pain. Or they believe that's just how life is. And they're not actively looking for a solution, or at least not yet. Or perhaps for them, it just doesn't bother them, right? As frustrating as it might be for you, it doesn't bother them. So you want to set the bar low in terms of who that is. We're not just going to say people who wants to come on a sales call with us, right? It starts way before the sales call. However, your lead is not someone who liked your post of your dog. Your lead is not someone who you friend farmed, but you actually have no idea that you know anything about them. Your lead is not someone who put their hand up for a problem that you don't even solve. They're not someone who friend requested you because you don't know yet whether or why they even friend requested you, right? Maybe it's because they're intrigued as to what you do. Maybe they are the random nosy mum at your kid's school who just wants to check you out. Maybe there's someone who's trying to sell to you. You don't know. So they're not a lead yet, right? It's your job to start to uncover whether or not they're an actual lead. The other big mistake is not tracking leads. And when you're not tracking your leads and you have no systems in place, then you are not going to follow up because you're going to forget. And whatever system you use for you is whatever works for you. The best systems are the ones that you will use. But also, they're going to need to scale with you as you start to generate more leads. I listened to one lady, she was saying that pen and paper works for her because anything on a screen or technology she won't use, but she uses it on pen and paper. And that's fantastic for her. And if that works for you to start with, then go do that. If that's the thing that you'll actually do, then go do that. I would argue it's not scalable when you get to 200, 300 leads. It's going to be very challenging on a piece of paper to understand when you're supposed to be following up with each individual. And so you're probably going to want systems in place. Following up with your leads means you actually have to reach out and follow up, and more than once. And typically, what happens with the women that I speak to is that they get really nervous about following up. They'll either send out a generic thing after a masterclass, like, thanks for coming, how'd you find it? Right? Which is not opening up a conversation because most people go, yeah, it was great, thanks. Bye. Right? Instead of using better quality questions to open up that conversation, or they don't. They go, oh, well, if they wanted it, they'll just reach out to me. Because at the end, I did say you could work with me. Just reach out. And they haven't reached out. Or they follow up once. And then they assume either the person doesn't want it, or if they reach out again, they'll be bothering people. Most of the time, I can guarantee you're not bothering people, but what you're doing is making a decision for somebody else. You're deciding you're not ready, you don't want it, you don't have the money, you don't have the time, you don't want to hear from me ever again. And when you are serving someone else, you do not make the decision for them, especially if they are women. We have had such a long history of people making decisions for us. Let them make the decision. There is a good chance if they're not answering you, it's because they haven't seen it, they looked at it and hadn't paid attention, or maybe, yeah, they are too afraid to say no, but the ball's in their court. And I can honestly say there has never been anyone who has said, don't ever contact me again. How dare you, you're bothering me. At most, I've had someone say, do you know what? I actually don't think that I am your ideal target market. Like, I don't think that this is right for me, but I'd love to carry on following your content. And so, okay, great. So they've self-identified that actually the people that I'm supporting are not them. And that's great. It's great for me and it's great for them because I don't have to follow up anymore, right? Because I've got a lot of other people to follow up with, but also for them, they can go, actually, do you know what? I'm at a different stage of business and I'm looking for something else. And so I can go find someone else who can actually help me better. And that's fantastic for that person. There is a very, very small possibility that anyone is going to reach out to you and say, how dare you bother me? You bothersome, terrible, horrible person. I'm going to slam you all over the internet, right? And I'm not saying reach out and cold DM people. What I'm saying is follow up. You're following up your leads. You're following up people who you said, hey, is there anyone in this room who has this problem? They said, yes, me. I have this problem. And then you've gone in for a conversation about how you could help them with that problem. And so that's so very much different than just jumping cold into people's inboxes and just messaging random things, hoping and assuming maybe they have that problem. And so this is why it's so important to get people to put their hand up so you can have those conversations. So this is all about how you can now start to move your audience into clients. So remember, you can grab that guide, Lead Generation in Action, people, pay attention, on how to get your people to start self-identifying as leads. And I've listed lots of different options for you, and you do not have to do them all, but you can find the ways that they align with you, how you can then also continue to nurture that relationship and uncover further, are they someone who has the problem I solve? Are they looking to solve that problem? Are they ready to invest their time, energy, and money? And now I can invite them in. And you can grab that in the link below. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. And if you found this valuable, please share with other people or like, subscribe, follow, depending where you are listening and watching from.